All right, I admit it. I've always wanted to be famous. For the most part, outside of northeastern Ohio, I'm kind of unknown. That is until TikTok. I'm living with severe ME/CFS, myalgic encephalomyelitis, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. I look perfectly healthy. All the tests come back normal, but I'm sick all the time.
Hi, I'm Hal, and this is the Living in a Body podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Today's episode 70, and it's a conversation between myself and my friend Elanor Nodorf. I have gotten the wonderful blessing and pleasure of spending the last several days with Elanor. We're making a movie.
We already made a movie.
We made a movie.
We shot all of it.
We shot all of it. Now Eleanor's got to do the hard work of piecing it all together.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Elanor, what's the movie going to be called?
The movie is called Living in a Body.
Yeah, Living in a Body.
Then I went to New York City to shoot the last scene of the film. The last time I was here was a year ago, almost to the day. I had just quit my full-time job and decided to devote a year of my life to making films full-time while living at home with my parents. I came to New York because I was trying to figure out what film equipment I needed to buy to make more professional films without a crew. I was also touring grad schools for filmmaking. When I look back on this past year, I tend to focus on how much time I wasted while I was paralyzed about how to build a career as a filmmaker. I wish I had been more productive. But I also fought through all of that, and I made films I'm really proud of. A year ago, I could never have anticipated that I'd be making this film with Hal, using the equipment I bought back then in New York.
So, Hal, do you want to tell them just what we've been doing for the past 5 days?
We'll do a video shoot for 12 minutes, and then I'll rest for 12 minutes. And then we do another video shoot. And we keep going to different parts of the house. We keep coming up with different conversations to have. You know, we keep sharing. We're collaborating on this. So Elanor will have an idea of something she'd like to ask me, or I'll have an idea of something I'd like to say. It's been fun.
I wish I could spend my time in New York feeling relieved that I finished shooting a real feature film. Instead, I feel anxious and overwhelmed about my application to grad school. Although last year I had decided it wasn't in the cards for me, this year I feel like I have to at least try, just to find out if I can get in. I like the idea of having a built-in community as a way to make films with others instead of doing everything by myself like I've been doing so far. In my application, I have to write a bunch of statements about who I am and what defines my filmmaking. I've barely started it. Instead, I've spent my autumn working on Living in a Body. I hate how my films can't just speak for themselves in my application. I have to explain myself over and over to a group of people who don't know me. It's not enough to just say that I can't sustain an actual career as a filmmaker, doing everything by myself with no one to guide me. I have to craft statements that show a careful representation of who I am. I would rather just show them my films.
So I guess I wanted to tell them a little bit of the background of how we came to work together. My dad is named George, and he's Hal's childhood best friend. So I'm George's daughter, and I'm 2 or 3 years younger than your daughter.
Yeah.
I'm 23. And I've known Hal for my whole life. We saw each other probably less than once a year growing up because my grandparents lived in Ohio, so we would stop by Hal's to visit on the way to visit my grandparents. But I mean, I was obviously a little kid, and we didn't get to spend much time together. I mean, I don't think we've ever spent time together, just me and you, in my whole life before I came here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been really fun to get to know you now that I'm an adult, and we can kind of, have an adult friendship.
Right.
I live in upstate New York with my parents, and Hal was going to visit Hallie in New York City in March or April
Yep.
of this year. And he stopped by my parents' house on the way back. And you were kind of in rough shape, I would say.
I was in pretty rough shape at that time, yeah.
And I'm sure the traveling didn't help. But I got to see you, and as soon as Hal came to my house, my dad said, "Oh my God, Eleanor's been making YouTube videos. You have to see them." And I was like, why are you telling him about my videos? Like, I don't want, the attention on me. So you were interested in seeing my videos. So you and my parents watched my YouTube videos on our huge TV, and I left the room because I don't like watching my own stuff. And I mean, I didn't really expect you to have a reaction to them.
But I had a strong reaction.
But you had a very strong reaction.
I just remember having a very strong reaction, like, wow, I didn't know this was what I was going to be watching. This is cool. I love this. I love this woman is obviously a talented filmmaker. And it wasn't just, when you think of YouTube, I don't know what comes to your mind, but in my mind, really what Elanor is doing is some of the finest YouTube. Like that's the art of YouTube is what you're doing.
So I was hiding out in my room because I was kind of embarrassed. And you came up to my room upstairs, my bedroom, before you were going to go to bed, and you said, "I just love your films and I would love for you to make a film about me." And I said, all my ideas for the film about you, I think there on the spot.
Well, then several months passed, and I think at one point I got a text from you or something saying, "Hal, I'm ready to move forward on this. Can I come to your house and stay for a few days and make this movie happen?"
Yeah, over the summer, I wasn't sure what kind of shape Hal was in, so my original idea was to use your recordings of your Substack to kind of make a script of the film and use your podcasts as kind of a voiceover and then film stuff to make the film. So I had done that over the summer. I listened and read to all of your essays and picked the best parts or the parts that I found the most compelling and assembled them into a script. Script in loose quotes. Mm-hmm. I think the script is 30 pages long.
Wow. But then you got here and the whole plan changed.
So when I got here, I realized, I would say you're kind of in rough shape, but you have, I underestimated the strength of your creative spirit. I mean, you were and are so just like ready to do it and had a lot of ideas and wanted to be on camera and talk to the camera. I wasn't expecting that.
I have a passion for the creative spirit, and when the creative spirit moves, there's not much that can hold me back. But I've definitely been held back. I mean, imagine if I wasn't sick. This whole thing wouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
I spent weeks writing and editing my grad school application. I really struggled with my familiar self-doubt that always leads to writer's block. I felt a lot of self-imposed pressure to do my absolute best just so I know I did everything I could to get in. Although the writing process was one of the most challenging things I've done this year, I'm proud of what I wrote. I think I represented myself honestly, which is really all I can do. I submitted my application on the day it was due and was relieved to get back to working on Living in a Body. I came home from Ohio in the beginning of November, and my plan was to start editing right away. And I organized all my footage on my hard drive and set up my project and was ready to go. And I was just watching all of it through. I think I had 8.5 hours of footage, and I did not know what to do. I was like, this is too much. I don't know how to make this all fit together. And it's important to note that I didn't do kind of what you're supposed to do, I guess, when you're making a documentary, what most people do, which is you almost like write a script for the documentary and you ask your subject leading questions to get them to answer in a way that you're anticipating, and then you already have an idea of how you're going to piece together what they say. I went into shooting this film without doing that, partly because I didn't spend a lot of time with Hal before we started shooting. I didn't spend any time with him at all, actually. And just because of his illness, it's just too much on him to do all this pre-production. So I was really struggling when I came back from Ohio. I was just kind of languishing for like 2 weeks. And then I realized that I should do what I've done before, or what I did with my previous feature, Family Dinner, which is to transcribe all of the footage of Hal talking and then arrange the sound bites into a spreadsheet. It's almost like I can see all of the footage at once when I'm reading the transcripts as opposed to watching it. Like it turns it into something non-linear, and I'm able to rearrange it into a way that makes sense. So I basically made a script with my existing footage. I was just amazed at how I was able to do that because I had previous experience doing it with my other feature. Getting over that hurdle of not knowing what to do pretty quickly, instead of taking years to edit this, was so validating to me in how far I've progressed just in the past year with my filmmaking, because if I were making this film without that previous experience, I wouldn't know what to do and I wouldn't be able to proceed with the edit, I don't think. I also think part of what I'm learning is trusting that life is a story and that the footage that I got is enough to be a story. I sort of have to remind myself that fiction, narrative filmmaking, and fictional art in general is always inspired by real life. So why can't real life be a story by itself? So I'm just sort of letting the film talk to me and letting it tell me what it needs, and then making my decisions based on that. So it's been this really intuitive, seamless process that I've really enjoyed. And I have a finished rough cut now, which is about 2.5 hours long. I think the final film I'm hoping will be around 90 minutes, but yeah, just this rough outline after editing it for a month is 2.5 hours, and it's a real movie. So I wish I could keep working on it, but I'm going to New Zealand and Australia, so I'm gonna take a break here and then get back to finishing it when I get back.
So Hal, one question I wanted to ask you is, how do you feel about putting this film out into the world?
I am so excited. I feel like, especially last night, you said, Hal, this is going to be really good. And when you said that, I was like, gosh, if Elanor thinks it's going to be good, it's probably going to be good.
So what was it like to work with me as a director? If you could sum it up.
Fun. It was fun. You asked such good questions. I trust you. I felt like I could be honest. Having you there is so much easier than me telling the story without you there. Yeah, and I think you and I are on the similar wavelength. Like we have a similar level of intelligence and a similar level of interest in words and
yeah, and creative things. So I think there's been a nice flow between us. It happened very organically, and it happened very magically. And I didn't know what to expect when Elanor showed up, but the stories just started flowing, and the camera got turned on, and we had several nice setups in the house. I've got some portable lights that we moved around, and I can't wait for you guys to see it.
While I spent the winter having adventures in New Zealand and Australia, I was trying to break my habit of assuming the worst and instead convincing myself that I'd actually get into grad school. I'd repeat to myself over and over in my mind, I will get in, I will get in. At the same time, it made me believe in living in a body more, that it will turn out to be a good film, that I can manage to teach myself how to do the technical work I haven't learned yet in order to finish it. I completed my travels with a renewed sense of optimism that everything will work out in my favor. When I made it home from the Southern Hemisphere in one piece, I thought surely I must be the luckiest person in the world.
Okay, so last question. What do you hope people take away from the film?
I hope that one thing I don't hope they take away is that that I have a tragic life. Like there are times in the darker moments of the film where there's a certain amount of tragedy to this story.
Yeah, there is.
And I don't want people to go away feeling like it's tragic. But I really love your idea for the ending. I won't tell people that, but I love your idea for the ending. That is very hopeful, full of beauty, and I can't wait to see that.
Come home, says the river. There's no more time for wandering from city to city, looking for the perfectly cool community to make me perfectly happy. Come home, says the river. Time to lay down your broken body by the banks of the beautiful Cuyahoga River. Come home, come home, and stay